Well, it's looking like it's official. Donald Trump will most likely be the Republican Party's nomination for the 2024 presidential election following Nikki Haley's dropout. And what does the former president do to really kickstart his campaign? He trolls Joe Biden online. Trump has become notorious for his online mockery in the last few years, and when it comes to watching his successor, Joe Biden, do his State of the Union address, he took no prisoners. Take a look at what Trump put on his Instagram page while the president was doing his much-anticipated speech.
We're going to buy American. We're going to buy American. So trade rules. Buy America has been the law since 1933. Also caps and won't even go into effect until 2025. And by the way, that law was written and the benefit expires in 2025. New electric grids that are able to weather major storms and not prevent those forest fires.
And Trump's campaign team has circulated this eerie ad, warning of dire consequences for America if Biden is re-elected.
I guess I should clear my mind here a little bit.
We can all see Joe Biden's weakness. If Biden wins, can he even survive till 2029? The real question is, can we? Make America Great Again Inc. is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Biden's team has shot back with their own Gen Z-focused TikTok ads.
The state of our union is strong and getting stronger.
What's tit for tat there, guys? We're taking to social media to try and grab at least some younger constituents voting for either party. But I want to start with you, Reem. Is Donald Trump the ultimate online troll? Does he have that title?
Maybe he should be. I mean, I've got to say, I do think that the Trump's campaign seems to be a little bit more polished. Those videos seem to be edited by a TikTok expert, might I add, using trending sounds. We all know that's how you get the youths onto those votes. I mean, what's interesting about this election, and of course the numerous elections that we're seeing across this year, is that social media and digital content seem to be really taking it at the forefront. And actually, in order to get those young people voting, you know, if we're looking at the UK, for example, how many people between 2019 and now can now vote? They're now over 18. Same thing with the US, and actually so many people that grew up during the pandemic and sort of went to school during the pandemic are now voters.
That is true.
It's going to be really
interesting.
interesting.
And that's the TikTok generation.
Yeah.
I mean, it would make sense that they're taking to these platforms to try and reel, you know, in the voters, but it has to be said that this is nothing new for Donald Trump. He's been trolling Joe Biden since 2015. What do you think, Ryan Mark? Do you think he is the ultimate troll?
Yeah, I think he's the ultimate troll. And I think it's a sensible stance to have to say it's really puerile and it's really childish, but I actually kind of love it.
Yeah,
I love these two presidential candidates putting out this kind of content. I think it's great. I was looking at that video this morning when Biden was at the Union address, and I think it's on 20 million views. So it's clearly hitting that demographic of voter that are going to turn out to the ballots. And even look at the midterm elections in 2022. 18 to 24-year-olds turned out in their thousands and thousands and thousands. I mean, it was 28%, well, it was probably more than thousands, millions. 28% of voters were within that age group. And that just goes to show young people are politically charged. They're wanting to get out there and vote. And actually, that's a lot more. If you compare, so for example, someone voting for the first time, that was their first midterm election vote, compared to Gen X, to boomers, to millennials. We actually saw a higher rate of 18 to 24-year-olds turning out for the 2022 midterm elections compared to other generations. And I think that says a lot about what's going to happen in this next presidential election.
That's right.
I think it does say a lot, but unfortunately, 18 to 24-year-olds, even Gen Zers in general, and the lower half of millennials are overwhelmingly left-wing. We know that, I mean, in the UK, was it 53% of 18 to 34-year-olds believe socialism is the ideal economic system, and that was polling done by the Favour Institute. I think what's interesting is, I mean, you're absolutely right, there are going to be huge numbers of young people that have never voted before. This year is going to be their first time voting, and actually a lot of this social media content is really geared up to try and strategise and get those votes. But I mean, the majority of them will be voting Democrat, and so I think it's going to be interesting to see how much this social media stuff actually impacts it.
Yeah.
I would quite like to see Trump and Biden do a TikTok dance-off. That would be cool.
I mean,
that's what we need to
that
see
would be a true fall from grace when it comes to
Yes, it would be.
I mean, I know that you guys can't speak for as an American voter because we're in the UK, but you two are in Gen Z and you've grown up with this, TikTok, social media. I mean, I was probably in the transitional phase when I was starting to vote, but this is kind of the way to get these voters on. And as you said, Reem, it is, anyone your age is probably predominantly left-wing, but do you think that it's two people that would kind of understand where a Conservative Party is coming from? Is it an effective campaign tool for your generation to be able to kind of say, okay, here is the President of the United States. I think we all know that there's something going on here. He's obviously the oldest sitting president in US history. He's not, he's not doing too well in getting voters off, out of their concerns that there is, some cognitive defaults going on. But is TikTok and Trump's trolling the effective tool to get Gen Z to be like, okay, it's not all, happiness in the socialist Democrat camp?
I think it's the best way, right? I mean, I use TikTok. I started using TikTok when it first kind of became popular. Was it just before the pandemic?
Before the pandemic, with all the dances during lockdown.
Yeah.
What's interesting about this, actually, is that many young people are increasingly using TikTok as a search engine over Google and another search engine. So people are actually searching on TikTok for political answers. They'll be searching.
You get a lot of information on there now. There's a lot of political commentators. Channels like this are on TikTok.
Yeah.
So you find out so much through TikTok nowadays. And if I were a young American voter and I saw that video, perhaps not the State of the Union address video, because I didn't really see the point of that. I think that was just really very childish.
But trolling.
Yeah. But the other video Trump put out of Biden, where he's slurring his words and he's forgetting what he's about to say, I think that's very effective campaigning. And I would look at that and think, absolutely, I don't want Joe Biden running to be the next president and potentially be president until 2029, if he does survive, as the video says.
I think there's also something to be said about the algorithms. I mean, TikTok, for example, is overwhelmingly left-wing. And again, this kind of comes down to demand for it. There is a huge demand for young people wanting, overly left-wing content. We could use the word woke if we want to, but a lot of it is, there is this demand for that kind of very extreme leftist perspective on many of these issues, culture war and indeed economic issues. If you go on TikTok and said, what are the causes of inflation? I guarantee the first video that will come up and say it's capitalism, it's capitalist greed. So I actually think that for most young people, if we want to win the battle of ideas, it's got to be on policy ideas and it's got to be about ideas over personalities and party politics. But unfortunately, looking at the way in which both campaigns in the US have tried to use social media, I suspect it's going to be the Democrats that do particularly well, purely due to the fact that that's the way the algorithms work.
And that's their voter. I mean, I agree with you, Reem. There is TikTok. There's an appetite for TikTok because it's obviously short form.
Yes.
I would have messages of people saying that random accounts were uploading my content of just a breakdown of what had happened in US Congress that day, and that wasn't necessarily anything opinionated content. It was just this is what happened in Congress today.
Yeah.
And so many people were writing to me saying, well, we didn't get to see this, so it was an easier way of breaking it down and uploading it on TikTok, and it wasn't even me or my company doing it. But anyway, it is interesting. I mean, we're going to see this for the rest of the year. We're going to see both parties take to social media, especially TikTok, to not only troll each other, but I guess inform the public of, what each of their policies, along with each of their competitors and what they're doing wrong.
What I like about what Trump is doing, he's not only on TikTok, but he's transcending into now fashion.
Yes.
He's released his trainers for $399, and now Gen Z are buying his trainers. They're all sold out. So
and
I think that's
also free campaign material as soon as they're walking around on the street.
Exactly. Advertising Trump everywhere. Make America great again.
He knows how to get a product viral. He really knows how to sell out a product.